All right, so welcome everyone. I'm Anita Thompson of Art Venture Workshops, and it's my pleasure to be here with you this evening. Um, I'm just going to go over real quickly again the basic supplies. You need a half sheet of watercolor paper. Watercolor paper comes 9 by 12, usually in the blocks of paper. If you picked a sheet up or picked up an art kit from the William James Memorial Library, you received a full sheet. You do want to half that sheet. So whether you cut it in half or for now you just draw a line down the middle, that's fine too. You also need a small cup of water for your brush. For the watercolor, your basic set of watercolors. I just have Crayola here. And we're going to be doing that at the end. Perfect, John Paul. I love it. And welcome. I think PM just joined. Welcome. We're just quickly going over the basic supplies. Again, we're using a half sheet of watercolor paper. We're using, we need a pencil with an eraser to draw this very basic drawing. You also need a black Sharpie marker. I recommend Sharpie or some sort of permanent marker that does not bleed. If you're worried about that, you can wait until the end in order to go over your pencil lines. You can also just quickly test it out on a small sheet of watercolor paper or on the other side. You would just put the black marker, do a squiggle, take your water with the brush and wipe over it to make sure that your black marker doesn't bleed. And you need some paper towels, and that's it. So we are going to start. As I mentioned, and for those that just joined, we are recording this. You will receive it maybe possibly in a few days. Lisa is not in the office this week, so when she is able to get to it after I send it out, you will receive it. And then you are free to do it over, share it, whatever you'd like to do. Okay, so we're going to get started. I have spotlighted my video. If for whatever reason you can't see it large, you want to make sure on your device that you are on speaker view so that you can see that I have spotlighted my video. You could also pin the video, PIN, which would work on your end if you to make it larger if for whatever reason you can't find spotlight, or I'm sorry, speaker view. All right, so we're going to get started here. Basically, we're going to be drawing this out first. I'm going to go a little closer here now. Here is our half sheet of paper. Like I said, I put these two together and it's a full sheet. As you can tell, I've turned it over so that your sheet looks like this. This will be your drawing space. So we're going to get started first with our hill area. And in this one, this is one of the other samples I did originally, and I realized I didn't add the other two portions of the hills. So please don't pay attention as much to the unadded portions of the hills. We're going to add them over here. I realized I had two samples for this and grabbed the other one, and now I can't find the original one right while I'm doing it now. So I apologize. But so welcome, Joan. We are just getting started. Good to see you. Right now, we just need a pencil with an eraser and a half sheet of watercolor paper as we create our basic drawing, and then we'll start with the designs. Okay, and then our last part will be just adding some watercolor to it. The watercolor is very basic in this one. So for those of you that are not used to watercolor, this is just sort of a basic introductory to do that. Okay, so we're going to get started at the bottom of our paper here. And let me just back up the camera here so you can see my full sheet. Oh, we've got Joyce coming on in. And we're going to come down to the bottom of our paper. And basically, we're going to start with a hill. So our hill is in the front. And then we're going to draw the cactus, and then we draw the hills on the either side. Welcome, Joyce. We're just getting started. You're welcome. I have you on mute. Everyone's on mute because we're recording. But if you need to say anything in the chat, please feel free to do so and take your time. I think you'll be able to catch up because we're just using a half sheet of watercolor paper along with a pencil right now. So down at the bottom here, so we have our two corners here at the bottom, but we're going to go up a little bit when we start our drawing. So I'm going to come up a little bit from here and we're going to make our hill. So just a really simple hill like that. And once we do that, we're then going to create the middle area of our cactus. So basically, starting on either side here of the hill, we're going to go up. And I'm just going a little bit lighter at first. And then we're going to go down, and this is the bulk of our cactus. And I like to kind of maybe make my side of the cactus a little bit flared out. You don't have to, but I like to do that sometimes. And once we do that, we've got our basic shape for the middle of the cactus. We're now going to draw the two arms that are showing. So we're going to come here over to our left side here, and we're going to draw a basic shape of the arm. And then we're going to do the same on the other side, but it's going to be a little bit lower. Like so. Let me make this a little darker here. So you also want to make sure that you have an eraser on the end of your pencil, or if you have one of those nifty gray erasers, the gray clay erasers here, they're called kneaded erasers. They're fun because you want to be able to erase your pencil marks when we are finished so that they don't show. So now once we do that, we're going to just come back down to the bottom here, and we're going to create the other parts of our hilly area here, which is really our desert. So we're going to come to the left side here and out to the left side of our paper to then make another curve. And that curve is going to continue on the other side, but it's going to kind of go upward like that. So what I did was I made my curve on the left side of the cactus. Then I acted like I was going to make that line inside the cactus, but I didn't, just so that I could follow it out to the other side. And then right above that, when you're finished, you're going to make one more curve on the right side. And I'm just going to erase that little line in my cactus here. So you should have something that looks a little bit like this. So again, I always say in my classes that you can get as creative as you want. If you want to leave something out, please feel free to do so. It doesn't have to look exactly like mine, especially with what we're doing this evening. This is really a more relaxing one. This is Zentangle inspired. I am not an official Zentangle artist. There are people that are actually, there's actually a brand that they have, and I'm not that official, but oh, John Paul, that looks great. Great job. I love it, bud. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I think all of these are going to look really unique. So I just wanted to put that out there that it doesn't have to look exactly like mine. All right, so now that we have that, we're going to go in the upper right corner here and we're going to draw the sun. So what we're going to start with basically is we're going to start with our basic shapes of the sun. So I know there's a lot going on here, but what we're going to do is we're basically going to be drawing circles, and it's going to start at the upper corner, but a little bit to the left of it. And then we're going to keep drawing round half circles all throughout to mimic the sun, the rays of the sun. So let's go up to the top right corner here and go down a little bit, and we're going to draw our first circle. And then we're going to start drawing circles around that until they start to get cut off by the paper. So what I mean by that, we're going to go around again. And our circles are going to get bigger. And you're going to let those circles trail off of your paper wherever they're ending up. And then you're going to keep going. These are the rays of the sun. So yours might look a little different. And we're going to keep going around in half circles. And you want to make sure to follow that shape behind your cactus. So you can sort of lightly trace with your pencil where that might end up. Like right here, sometimes I go through the cactus very lightly just so that I can see where it's ending up. And so you should have something that looks like this. It's a very simple outline. And then we are actually going to start with our marker. That marker is really the longest part. And hopefully you'll feel relaxed as we're doing it. Let's see. One more part I'd like you to do with your pencil here. You also may at this point want to make sure that your circles look the way you want them to. Like if you have to fix any, like I always get a little bit kooky with my circles here. I tend to have a bit of a shaky hand. So then I basically maybe go a little bit too in with my curve when I want to go a little more outward. So what I'm doing right now is just kind of fixing up the basic shape of those. And it doesn't have to be perfect because again, this is a very it's not a realistic drawing, it's an illustration, and we can have fun with it basically. Okay, so now that we have those basics, we want to go back into the cactus one time, and we just want to separate inside the arm, the left arm of the cactus. We want to make 3 lines so that we can do different illustrations inside those. And then when we go into our cactus, we're going to make 3 or 4 lines. I think 3. Actually, I think 3. Yeah. And as you can see, as I'm getting towards the right side of the cactus, my lines curve to the right side. So for instance, this one kind of had a curve at the top. This one was a little straighter. This one I have to fix because again, I got a little kooky with it. And again, you might want to add a 4th one. But I kind of like where mine's ending up. And then finally, the right arm. And I curve those lines when I get to the top of the arm of the cactus. So see here where they're kind of curved. It just makes the cactus arm look a little more realistic. And I'm just going to show this up close just so you can see the basic shapes here. And we're going to get started with our sun after you have all this down. So basically, again, you want to test out your marker and make sure that it doesn't bleed when you put the watercolor on. And if it does, you can do the watercolor very lightly, see if that works. But we're going to start off with our marker. Now that we have our basic shapes down, we're now going to be copying over all of these basic shapes. And then what we're going to do is start inside each of those shapes to create our Zentangle shapes, or Zentangle inspired, I should say. So now we are recopying over all the lines we created. And then the next step after this is you're going to be erasing your pencil, because basically you can't always trace over the pencil perfectly. None of us can. So then we're going to just erase all the pencil marks before we start continuing with doing the designs, or at least before we actually watercolor. So right now I'm retracing over, starting off with the sun, and then also the cactus for now. The other thing that you could do, I've also done this project where I've had sort of just a thinner black pen to do some of the ones in the middle, although I usually have like a ballpoint pen and those kind of bleed. So you might want to just stick with what we have. But that's another option. I've seen people do that where they actually wait to do the lines in the middle, so that when they start the watercolor, it doesn't bleed. But just wanted to mention that as an option, but it is not called for. I use this black marker throughout the whole thing, but I have been asked by other people if they could use a thinner marker. That's the other thing. Some people like to use a thick marker. Others like to use sort of like a medium or a very thin one, or a combination. I just use a basic permanent marker that is probably, I think it is a fine tip. So anyway, continuing on here with our very basic outlines here. And try to be as neat as you can with your lines. You know, don't stress if it's not perfect, because this one I think is a free and a fun one. Oops. Okay, so I have the basic shapes drawn here, and then once you do that, this is where you want to then start to erase away your pencil. So whenever you're finished with recopying your basic shapes, the basic outline, I should say, of the cactus, the sun and the sun rays, and then also your desert, which are, you know, the hilly areas at the bottom, you can erase your pencil lines so that you will now have a black and white. Yeah, looks good, John Paul. Perfect. That's exactly, you got it. That is exactly what you want. So it kind of almost looks like a coloring book right now, you know, with the black and white. I'm just scrolling through to see everybody here. It's so great to see everybody signed in. Kathy, Joyce, Ani, Gail, PM, Audrey, Amani. few others. I was just scrolling through. So now is when you want to take the time to neaten up any of your lines, and again, erasing any. I also like to double up on my cactus line, the outside, and also my on the desert line. So then I go back and I retrace the cactus line and the desert lines so that they are a bit thicker and they stand out a little more. So I'm doing that now. You can even do it where, you purposely make it a little thicker in the sense of going over it, but going a little outside of it, which is what I'm kind of doing here. So I'm carefully doing that so that then all of our little illustrations inside stand out a little more, or I should say the outside stands out a little more because of that. Okay. Oops, I forgot my one hill here. Well, I keep calling it a hill. It's not really a hill, but they're hilly parts. Okay, so again, I made those a little thicker. You can also make the rays of the sun thicker, the outside, if you like. I may just do that as well. You can also do that afterward, or you don't have to do it at all. I like to do it because I like it to stand out from the marker, the single use marker that we use as we're starting to go inside of each of our shapes. But if you think it's going to mess it up too much, you can leave this step out. But if not, your next step would be just make some of those lines a little thicker by going over them again with your marker. But again, you don't have to do this step if you don't want. Oh, yeah, you do, John Paul. You have plenty of black lines and it looks excellent. It looks really good. Kind of fun to do it this way, right? I mean, it's different. Okay, so I just wanted to kind of retrace the sun rays. Okay, so now we are ready to start. So here's the thing. I'm going to show this up close. Lots of detail there. Basically, you can be very free with how you add your lines and your design. I'm going to show you how I'm doing it, but you can make any lines that you want inside your shapes. So maybe, for instance, like we're going to start off with the sun right here. And so I didn't put anything in the middle of the sun. And then starting in the second part, I just added some dashed lines like this. And I'm going to go closer with my camera just so you can really start to see some of this. All right, so I'm going to move a little closer now and move this down so you can now see this one. So I start off with some dashed lines inside, and then on the other one, I start adding dots. So you can do something like squiggles if you don't want to add exactly what I'm adding, or you can just follow along exactly. And all together, this starts to get looking very detailed, which is fun. It's very repetitive, but Zentangle originally was meant to be relaxing by doing repetitive patterns, and it is relaxing. Sometimes it can get a little annoying or boring, depending on what state you're in, but I'm hoping it's relaxing tonight. So we're going to continue now in our next sun ray. And like I said, you can follow along and do exactly like I do, or you can do your own designs. But we're following along in the next one. And so I make lines in between to separate, and then we will create some designs inside each of those lines. So going all the way around here with space in between so that we can create some more designs inside there. And then once we do that, I make 2 little dashed lines next to each other on either side of each of the separated lines. That makes sense. So as you can see, we've got 2 lines inside, and then I go to the bottom and I repeat that pattern. So again, just simple, going around. And so it looks like this. And then I actually add 2 dots in the middle. So then I go like this, this. So then I just add 2 dots, almost like it's 2 eyes, a pair of eyes. Oh. Oh, Amani's trying to connect again. Whoops. Hopefully Amani comes back in. Okay. There you are, Amani. Yay. I'm glad you got back in. So we're going to continue in our next one. We start to kind of make what I call kind of like bubbles, like this. And just take your time as you go around the cactus. And you're going to stack that shape like this until you fill up that section. So you can make these as big as you want. And you're going to fill up that whole section. Kind of looks like flowers. And you're going to fill it up until you can't fill it up anymore. And then you can make sort of individual kind of circular little areas to fill up that area. So it should start to really look very detailed at this point. And we do this in each section. And that's why I say, if you want, you can create your own if you want. And then the next one, we make some thin straight lines for the next sun rays, if you're following. Now, some people like to do this with their pencil. I like to go right in with my marker, as you noticed. And then in every other one of these, I make 2 thin circles. What am I trying to say? Not a circle, but thinner than a circle. But like so. So you can kind of see that this is creating the detail for every single one of these sections. And we're going to keep going. Oh, here's Tony. Okay. Saw Tony come off too. Yay, Tony, you're back on. Okay. So continuing on, kind of start to make sort of these circles in this one section, and then inside the circles, we kind of create sort of rainbow shapes. So in your next section, I create circles on either side, like so. So right now they just look like circles that are going in different directions. And then inside the circles, you create kind of what looks like almost like rainbow shapes, like so. So sometimes if you can get in with a circle and make more of a circle, and then other parts, you can only make half circles, which looks more like a rainbow, and that's okay. That is the fun part of this shape. And then you can go back and fill in the spots around your circular shapes by echoing that pattern, basically tracing and making more circles outside the circle. That makes sense. Like basically you want to fill that entire section where that circular part is. And we keep going, and we've got this one is rather detailed. It is a string of small circles right next to each other in rows. So this one is where if you don't want to make this repetitive pattern as much, you can do something different. But I basically went in a line of little circles right next to each other until I filled up this space. It's very repetitive, but it can be relaxing. And just keep going. Then I add a dot in the middle of each one, but you don't have to. When I'm all finished creating the circles. But you can see how each of these patterns starts to look really interesting with all the other patterns. A lot of marker. I imagine this would also look very interesting with colorful markers. I had somebody mention that to me. Oh, Maria's coming on. Welcome, Maria. So we have been recording, and we are in the stage of the drawing where we've added marker. We drew it first, and you can draw it first with your pencil and then use marker. And we're happy you're here. Our last step is going to be using our watercolor. That is the last step of this drawing. But right now we are doing the intricate task of adding designs to each section that we're doing here. So it is relaxing for the most part. Hopefully you don't get bored by recreating all these designs. And then I'm just adding some dots in between these little circles that I just drew in this section. So basically, what we did, Maria, is we started with our basic drawing of the cactus, the outside of the cactus, and the sun, the rays of the sun, and then our desert hills. And then now we're filling in all of the spots inside. So I'm continuing on here with the next rays. Adding more of a tribal design here. It's really fun. And again, you can make it your own. You don't have to follow exactly what I'm doing. And so I make kind of the tribal design and then start to make lines in each of the triangles going different ways. So I like to make the lines in the triangles going downward. I make those straight. And then I'm going to flip the lines to going up and down in the other ones. So it looks more intricate than it really is. I mean, they're still intricate, but all of these lines definitely make it look more so. And I'm going to flip some more here. This one especially looks very intricate as it gets down towards the bottom here. And, you know, I might add another, I'm going to add another circle here. Why not? Okay. So again, it looks more intricate than it is, but you just take each section and do a design in it. I like to kind of wait till I finish the landscape before I go back to the cactus. I don't know why, I just always do that. And you do start to make lines inside each of the hills of the cactus. With your marker. And I do each one so that I don't get confused. Gets a little confusing as you get down to the bottom. And I repeat some of the same patterns that I did in the top. But here again, you don't have to. You can do something completely different. You could do scribbles. This is the fun part of this drawing. It doesn't have to look realistic. Now I'm going to add triangles in this next one. Double triangles. And again, it's going to look much more detailed because I'm now doubling inside the triangles. And then I will do the same thing on the other side of the triangles to make it look even more detailed and kind of tribal. So I'm making like little V's in each one. And let's see, this one here, I'm going to make another separation. And make half circles on the other side. And in between, like so. And let's see, this one. Gonna make big swirls. So they're not complicated. They just look a little complicated. Oh, wow, John Paul, that looks amazing. It's a lot of work, right? Looks awesome. I can't wait to see what these look like. Yeah, and now we're just kind of taking our time here. And again, if you want to go back and make the lines thicker around your desert, you know, you'll go back and you'll make a thicker line when you're finished so that it still stands out from the rest of your drawing. You can do that. So basically, also when you get to the bottom where the desert area is, you want to go inside that desert area, you know, the desert hill, and make some more curved lines. But if you do that at first, I find it gets a little confusing. So I tend to wait until I get to each of those sections. So hopefully this is relaxing for you. And you're getting lost in your pattern making. I think it looks good just even in black and white, but it's also fun, obviously, to color it. Let's see, getting into the other section here. When I get to the bottom here, in the part where the desert is, in my first section, I kind of almost make like an H symbol in order to create that shape. You know, again, it's just stuff that it's rather simple, but it looks more complicated than it is. But when you break it down into simple shapes, just like drawing, it looks harder than it is. Or at least I should say it looks more detailed than it really is. Whenever you break it down in drawing, it's great because then you realize that it's, almost like bite-sized little steps, and that creates the whole of the drawing. So continuing on here in each of these sections. And then I'll be ready for the cactus. But again, take your time. Enjoy each of this design making. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect. And they all pretty much look good once you finish, because it's all intricate, or what looks like intricate designs, lots of design. And all together, it looks good. Okay. And let's see, last part here. Oop, oop. And then I'm going to start in my cactus. The great thing about drawing like this is it lets you forget anything else that you had on your mind earlier. And that is the magic of drawing. Oh, I will absolutely slow down. Thank you, John Paul. So studies have shown that's why things like art and music help you relax, because it forces you to concentrate on the task that you're doing. Um, and that promotes relaxation. You hear about people getting in the zone, and you're kind of forced to do that when you're doing something like this. So I'm doing the cactus here. And again, just take your time. Each of us are in different sections. And as you can see, it's getting very detailed here. But you can create your own designs. Again, it doesn't have to look exactly like mine. But if you want to, um, you can look at each one of my sections and copy that. They're pretty simple enough to do, I think. But if you have any questions about a certain part that you're wondering, well, how did you do that part? I can absolutely let you know and show you. I'm going to zero in a little closer now. to my drawing. See, with all that, it looks very detailed. Still adding on some more shapes. And just kind of deciding here what I want some of those shapes to be. I think I'm going to break it up this one and just add some dots on the cactus on that side. Oops. Oh no, that looks good, John Paul. Oh, that's okay. That's okay if it's, you know what? I made mistakes on mine. I made things too dark in sections that I didn't mean to. It's going to look really good. I promise. It looks good already. Yeah, it looks good already. I did that. I'm going to show you where I don't like this part over here. I made it too dark right here and right here accidentally, but all together it's going to look good. You know, see, I have some dark sections here that I didn't mean to get so close with my marker, but it's a very forgiving, this one's a very forgiving design. So I think that's the fun part of this too. You know, even if you make a mistake or what you consider a mistake on a section of it, nobody can really tell. And then when we use watercolor on top of it, it looks even better. That's what I like about it too. Let's see, I'm gonna continue in my cactus here. I start to go a little slower in the smaller sections. And sometimes I color in a part that I want black. I'm doing that in this cactus right here. I didn't really do it too much in the other parts, but you can. I just colored in some black over there. And I'm gonna make some thicker lines here. Now you can also choose to keep your cactus not adding as many designs in the cactus. I had somebody in one of the classes do that, and that looked really good too. She actually decided not to even fill in her cactus except with watercolor. That was really interesting. Mine is very much full of design, and that's okay. That's why you can make this project, you can be creative with it. Gonna make some circles in this one. Can't wait to see what these look like. I think these are all going to look very different. Almost done here with my cactus part. Just deciding on what to do for the final part here. I'm going to make some triangles. Oops. It's very detailed. So I'm going to outline. Like I said, what I like to do is I like to then, because it gets so detailed, I like to outline outside the shape of my cactus. That's just when you're all finished, and you don't have to. That's just something I like to do. And then I'm going to do it to the hill areas too. Just making those lines a little thicker. Here's another one. I'm going to be turning mine around for a second so I can make a thicker line here. And right here. And I'm going to start adding my watercolor. I know a lot of you aren't finished yet, and that's okay, but I want to show you, what it's going to look like with adding just some very simple watercolor on. I'll go over how we do that. Oh, nice. Thanks, Audrey. I'm so glad you
Thanks,
had
Anita.
fun.
I really
You're
enjoyed.
welcome.
I'll just have to
Oh,
darken and color it, but it was fun. I did finish the pattern. Thank you. Thank you.
oh, thanks, Audrey. I'll talk to you soon. That's wonderful. So again, once you're finished, you can start to add some very basic color to your design. And basically, I've used rainbow colors, starting with yellow in the sun. And while it's wet, I start to add orange mixed in with a little yellow, and then the orange as it goes around. So I know I mentioned it's very simple watercolor. This is mostly marker in the design, and then just adding some washes of each color, and I kind of blend them as I'm going around. So I keep my brush wet, not real wet, but I keep the other color on my brush so that it blends with the next color. So for instance, I'm using, at this point, I've finally gotten to the red part. And as you can see, the color progresses from yellow to orange to red in the sun, in the sun part, the sun rays. And then starts to get into purple. And then finally blue. So I'm adding, let's see, oops, what am I doing at this point? Purple. Got a little confused where I was. I have to add a little purple. I do the background first, and then the cactus last. And then the desert hills. And then I start to finally add blue as I get down. You do want to be mindful of where your hill starts. I have gone over my hill before in blue where I meant to go in with yellow and brown, but that's okay. Like I said, this is a very forgiving. But look how good it looks with just a little bit of color added with all the black. It kind of looks like stained glass or something, which I think is really fun. Mine does, when I hit the black a little bit, it looks like it is a little bit wet, although it doesn't really bleed. It does look a little wet looks like it's going to when you add the water, but it doesn't. Mine doesn't. So at the bottom, I add yellow and brown into the hilly desert area. Yay, Debbie, you got back on. I want to see what everybody's looks like in about 5 minutes. I know these take some time, and some people are faster, some people are slower. There's no reason to rush. It should just be fun. And then I'm finally going to add green and blue to the cactus. So again, it's just, very simple colors. Obviously, the more color you use and less water, you're going to get more of a vibrant green. And I mix blue in with my green on the cactus. So after I add the green, I add blue on top to kind of get a nice mix. Doing that now. A little more green here. And sometimes I like to go back into in the sun and add a little more yellow again, just so it's a little bit more vibrant. Same with the orange. So you can make it however you like and however vibrant you like it. Let's add some more red here. Okay. And I'm going to add a little more brown again. And then dry it a little bit. Again, that's the fun thing about this is you can make it your own, add as many colors, or I had actually had somebody do this in red, orange, and yellow only last year. No, 2 years ago. Thanks, Kathy Ann. I'm so glad it was relaxing. Have a great evening. I'm also going to put my information in the chat for everyone in case you're interested in signing up for my weekly newsletter. I know most of you have it, and I actually didn't do a newsletter this week yet. Usually it comes out on Mondays. I had a bit of a crazy weekend that resulted in a minor procedure on my upper eyelid. So I've been a little out of commission, but I'm better. But my weekly newsletters come out usually every Monday. And in those newsletters, I have the registration links for all of the libraries I teach for. Um, so I teach for about 19 or 20 different libraries at this point, and both online and in person. So those newsletters feature the registration links and then um, other people's artwork, everyone's artwork who attends my sessions, and they're incredible. So it's really great to see what your other artist friends are doing because it's very inspiring. It's inspiring to me as well. So I'm curious to see what some of yours look like at this point. I'm going to remove my spotlight. I know we've got about 2 more minutes. And I'm going to stop the